What's the most awkward thing that's happened at a sleepover? Our entire friend group and my poor friend Baxter, that seems like a fun name, watched as my science teacher got a BJ from Baxter's single mom in a hot tub from the window. We were 13. There are some things you can't unsee. Edit. Your mama sure does care about your schooling, son. About 11 years ago. Sleepover with girls and boys. All lights are out for about 10 minutes. We have all settled down and gotten silent for sleeping. Then we hear a grown male voice clearly enunciate the word what. Now, let me be clear. This was not a child's voice. This was like hearing James Earl Jones say what. There was about a 10-second silence and then one of the girls says, "Who said that?" Full stop. Silence. Then one of the boys starts laughing uncontrollably. We turn the lights on and he is laughing so hard that he's crying. Here we are all freaking out about some strange man in our room while we sleep and he's pissing himself laughing. He finally calms down enough to tell us that it wasn't a person who asked what. He farted the word. His fart sounded exactly like the word what. We all cracked up. To this day everyone from that party still answers phone calls from each other with what? Full stop. When I was 6 I watched Jurassic Park at a friend's house one night. Got so scared I demanded my mom to come pick me up and take me home. So I said I was sick. My mother did not believe me. So I shit my pants in my friend's living room on accident so she would have to come get me. I didn't really go over to my friend's house that much after that. Fear can make a child crazy. Especially fear of velociraptors. Does a Boy Scout trip count? Well, if it does, here it goes. I was in BS in an inner city area. The older kids were dicks. Well, my first weekend trip my dad loaded me on goodies to share. I fell asleep and the older kids raided my bag and took just about everything. So it sucked, but whatever. I go home and tell my dad and he was pissed but really composed. Which was odd for my Irish longshoreman dad. So next month is my next trip and my dad made a big batch of brownies but told me not to eat any or share with my friends. He told me leave them in my bag like I did last time. Sure enough, I woke up and they were gone. And 3 kids were shitting themselves like crazy. Yup, my pop 6 lacks the brownies. He showed up that same morning to the campsite with another goodie bag for me to share. Never HQ'd my bag raided again. TL. I was out camping with a neighbor friend of mine when we were 14. I woke up hearing the shuffle of her sleeping bag. I asked her what she was doing and without breaking a stride she said that she was warming herself up. Then I turned on the lamp and found her on top of her bag. Naked and masturbating. She immediately stopped and pulled her sleeping bag up over herself and she turned out the lamp. We sat there in silence for about 3 minutes. Then I said, "You can finish if you wanna." "No. You ruined it." We didn't speak much the rest of the trip. You gave her the opportunity to finish. At least. I once slept over at a friend's house. He was a bit older than me. This difference was where he had discovered masturbation. Whereas I had not. Anyway. I heard his bed furiously rocking back and forth. I asked him what he was doing. He said he was doing push-ups. It was dark so I took him for his word. So then I asked if I could do push-ups with him. Years later it all dawned on me. You had no reason to doubt the man was getting swole in the middle of the night. In about grade 7. I had a sleepover with a few friends. One of them started crying when we started watching The Simpsons because he wasn't allowed to watch it at home. We couldn't calm him down for almost an hour. Real life Rod Todd. Back when I used to pee the bed in 3rd grade. I fell asleep in my friend's bed during a sleepover at his house. I pissed the bed. It was awkward. And I never stayed the night at his house again. But what was most awkward was that when I woke up, he was sitting in a chair staring at me, waiting for me to wake up. You know what you did? Finally invited to a sleepover at a popular girl's house. Started my period and bled all over my PJs, which I borrowed from her, and her sheets. The day after the sleepover. My friend wouldn't let me leave no matter what I did. Around 6:00 p.m. his dad finally said I should probably go home. Friend burst into tears, threw himself to the floor and was begging his dad to make me stay. There's nothing worse than being a kid at the house the next day wanting so badly to go home. Kinda sad. When I was 12, my friend Peter had a disco themed birthday party. No, I don't know why, at his house. The party being on a Friday. We all stayed the night. Being preteen boys with limitless cola, we ended up staying up all night and decided to watch the sunrise on his back deck. As we're looking at the majestic, slowly lightening sky, our peaceful moment is shattered by a shrill, screaming voice. Looking to the source of the sound, we see his fat, topless, 50-plus-year-old neighbor lady yelling through her kitchen window that we're degenerate perverts. She was under the impression we were all staring at her. Once the yelling started, we couldn't really help it. And that horrible image will be forever burned into my mind. I'm 29 now. Of course she thought that. You can't handle these lumps. Me and my friend slept in his mom's bedroom on the floor because she liked company since her husband passed away a few weeks before. Apparently when my mom came to pick me up the next day, my friend's mom said I climbed into bed with her. I had no idea. Classic case of sleepwalking. Were you old enough for it to be weird? Friend's mom walked downstairs to find 8 6th grade boys huddled around the TV watching PRN. We instantly pretended to be asleep. And nothing was ever said after that. I still think of it every time I see her. I'm imagining you all just falling over like those narcoleptic goats, with the PRN still playing in the background. Took the most wholesomely fulfilling tea in my friend's bathroom and ended up flooding the bathroom at 2 a.m. The parents had to clean up the entire mess. It was an awkward breakfast the next morning. 5 people in one room in their sleeping bags about to sleep, and all I hear is a very slow fapping noise. We didn't find out who it was in the morning. It was you, wasn't it? The fapper strikes again. The phantom fap. My friends. I was about 10. Sleeping over with a group of pals, including my buddy's little brother who was around 6. We finished up a few rousing games of Donkey Kong 64 and Hydro Thunder and all went to bed. Woke up to find the little brother standing ominously above me, butt-ass naked except for a pair of Christmas-themed tube socks on his hands and arms, and peeing into my half-open sleeping bag. No more sleepovers at Ryan's house. Guess you played 2 different kinds of Hydro Thunder that night. Not really a sleepover. I was 23 at the time and drove to California to stay on a buddy's couch. I drank a bunch of beer after the long drive and passed out. Woke up having pissed myself on his couch. It is about 5 a.m. I grab a towel and lay on it on the couch, resigning myself to being the guy who pissed on the couch for the duration of my stay. By some miracle the towel absorbed most of it. Him and his roommates woke up around 9 a.m. and nobody knew a thing. Edit. Except his cat. His cat knew. Please tell me his cat was not named Towel. This was both awkward and kind of scary. I was 8 or 9 years old. My friend was having a birthday party and a bunch of us were sleeping over in the basement. The basement itself was pretty creepy and we had spent much of the night telling horror stories until we eventually went to sleep. At around 2 a.m. we were woken up by one of the girls stomping up and down the stairs. She was yelling and crying. I can't remember what she was yelling specifically, but it was basically nonsense. It basically looked and sounded like she was possessed. A few of the girls started asking her to go back to sleep and she basically just angrily screamed no and continued going up and down the stairs. Finally, she eventually stopped without a word and walked back to bed. Found out in the morning that she had been sleepwalking, and on top of it had wet the bed. She was really embarrassed and we all felt really awkward at breakfast that morning. Our friend woke us all up acting like she was possessed by some kind of demon. Turned out to be sleepwalking and peed the bed. camping in the backyard with some friends when I had to pee super bad. I couldn't find the zipper to the tent to get out and I was about to burst. So I ended up trying to pee through the mesh window. I don't know why. Well, peeing through mesh doesn't work very well. Especially with terrible 9-year-old aim, and I ended up laying a pretty thick layer of atomized urine all over everyone else in the tent. In the morning it turns out one of my other friends was awake pretending to be asleep and saw the whole thing and told everyone it was me who peed all over everything in the tent. Dude was awake while he was getting piss all over him and said nothing. What the FCK, man. Needless to say, I was not invited to another sleepover for quite a while. Dude was awake while he was getting piss all over him and said nothing. What the FCK, man. Holy shit, this sentence made me laugh so hard. When I was about 7 or 8, me and a few friends were sleeping in a tent in my best friend neighbor's front yard. His dad was a bit of an alcoholic. Quite similar to Randy Marsh actually. Anyways, his dad comes home from the bar, plastered, bursts into the tent and wakes us all up, saying we should all go up to the elementary school across the street. We go with him, the whole time acting like spies, avoiding all the lights, all under his drunk ass directions. We get to the playground, and he decides he wants to challenge all of us to a foot race. So we all line up. He yells go, and we all take off. Surprisingly, he kept up with us almost all the way to the finish line before he busted his ass, fell flat on his face on concrete. He also landed awkwardly on his arm, breaking his wrist. Was awkward at the time, but looking back on it 20 years later, it's quite hilarious. Edit. Woke up today to find I was given Reddit gold. I was sleeping over at a friend's house after a party in high school. I shared a big couch next to this girl I sort of had a crush on and a couple other people. I was woken up to a tap on my shoulder and felt my massive boner pressed firmly against this girl. Felt my massive boner pressed firmly against this girl. She did not reciprocate. Well, I should hope that she wouldn't have reciprocated with a massive boner pressed firmly against you. Massive. Huh. I was sleeping over at my cousin's house. We stayed up and snuck out into the living room to watch Cinemax. It was after midnight, and back in those days that was when all the titty flicks came on. One came on that my cousin was really into. He started touching his raging erection in his pajama pants and then he let out a blood-curdling scream. Somehow he ruptured a vein or something in his peen. We had to go wake up his mom. She looked at it and decided we had to go to the emergency room. Our whole family still makes fun of him for that until this day when we get together. He got so turned on that his dick broke. Told my friend I hadn't changed my underwear in over a week. I learned a lot that sleepover. Like, change your underwear frequently. Edit. Just to clarify, I'm female and this happened when I was maybe 10. I'm 25 now and I promise I'm wearing clean underwear today. One time at a sleepover I left my dirty skid marked underwear in my friend's room. And when she asked everyone whose it was, I had to lie. I learned that wearing dirty skid marked underwear was not normal at that sleepover. I was a gross child. I was 10, I think. And it was the first time I stayed over at this kid's house. Well, we go to sleep at like 2 or 3 AM and all seemed well. Then suddenly his drunk grandfather charges in the room and gets the poor kid in a headlock and drags him to the floor. Oh. And he was naked. I guess he suffered from PTSD or something. I kind of ignored the whole event while it was happening and did not acknowledge it the next morning. I did not go back again. My friend's dog woke me up with his tongue in my mouth. Did you respond with more tongue? One time I was over at a friend's house for his 11th birthday. It was myself, the birthday boy, and 3 other guys. We all slept in our sleeping bags in the basement. At around 5 AM, we all awake to find Jake yelling at the birthday boy Derek. The reason? Derek thought it was funny to take a piss on Jake's face while he was sleeping. And Jake freaked out. Jake walked out right after that. while the rest of us stayed up and called our parents around 7. I went home around 8. And in that time, Derek was still trying to play it off as funny. Derek lost 4 friends that night. Were some of your friends named Matt, Ben, Dayton? Edit. Just so no one else feels left out. I was hoping for embarrassing stories about my brother, one of the names mentioned in ARP's story. Sorry everyone. My friend sitting next to me saw a kid shove a Lego axe up his butt in the middle of the night while he thought my friend was asleep. I was in 4th grade and sleeping over at my best friend's house. I wet his bed and then clogged their toilet with a massive dump. I didn't know what to do, so I shut the lid and ran into their garage to hide. And ran into their garage to hide. How'd that work out for ya? So, back in junior high, I had this friend. Let's call him Steve. I was over at his house like I was every weekend. And we had another one of our buddies come over. This kid was unique in one particularly strange manner. And I swear to you I'm not making this shit up. The kid could literally inhale air into his anus and produce the most thunderous and extensive farts I have ever heard in my life. To this day. Well, one day we asked him to do it and to sit down next to Steve's dad on the couch and let one rip. However, the imbecile took this as hey go fart on Steve's dad's head and he proceeded to do so. I have never witnessed somebody turn from happy to utterly furious so fast in my life. I was absolutely speechless and Steve and I had to stand there and watch our friend get laid into by Steve's dad. I woke up in the middle of the night to my friend stroking my arm. I asked him, "Zach, what are you doing?" He said, "My name is not Zach." And then he went back to sleep. I was about 5 or 6 when I lived in Florida. I was at my best friend's house. Hot thirsty and got up to drink some water. Found my friend's parents boning on the couch at 2 AM. I promptly went back downstairs. Back downstairs? I live in Florida. Basements are a myth. And anyone who says otherwise is a communist. I'm a female. When I was in grade 4, about 9 years old, I was having a sleepover at a girl's house who was the same age. The dog, a Jack Russell, wandered in and she said, "Want to see something cool? Watch this," and pulled down her skirt and underwear and spread her legs, letting the dog lick her out. I was stunned. I can't remember what my exact response was in the moment, but my mum picked me up about half an hour later. I had my high school girlfriend sleep over. She slept in the other room. Because we were too young to sleep in the same. We were both about 17. Anyway, early the next morning, I walk in on her having sex with my 15-year-old younger brother. Apparently, they had been seeing each other in secret for months. Most awkward, depressing moment of my entire life. We still never talk about it. I was once at a sleepover and there were about 6 of us guys, about 12-13 at the time, watching PRN. So me and my dirty little mind couldn't resist. I'm there in my sleeping bag masturbating fast enough to power a small village with the energy. When all of a sudden my sleeping bag gets pulled off of me and my resplendent member is on show for all to see. Yeah. That kinda sucked. Worth it though. Revenge is a dish best served inside his sister. Around the age of 11 or 12, we had a Super Smash Bros tournament. I guess one of the boys took it literally and whipped out his boner with pride, thinking it would be some sort of big dick contest. We all had a WTF moment. Then kind of pawned it off as a moment of him discovering his manhood. Or whatever. Putting the bro in Super Smash Bros. He thought I fell asleep, then he furiously masturbated. I was in 7th grade. Staying at my friend's house for the night with one other guy. It comes up late in the night that this guy has never masturbated. The host friend, who was infamously F-ked in the head, this guy stole his sister's underwear to jack it into them. Gets details on what the other guest likes. Turns out, he likes the incest thing too. So the generous host gives him a pair of his sister's panties so the guest can pretend they are his own sisters. The host then goes on to tell an erotic tale to the guest. Noises and all. While the friend jacks it into the panties and comes for the first time. Meanwhile, I'm just on the couch trying to get some goddamn sleep while these psychos reminisce about their sister's vaginas. No one ever mentioned it since. And I stopped hanging out with them shortly after. I stopped hanging out with them shortly after. Good call.